Hello, today I will be discussing regarding the receptor present over the plasma membrane and that is responsible for the signal transduction process. So these receptors are specific membrane proteins which are able to recognize and bind to corresponding ligand molecules, become activated and transduce signal to next signaling molecules, and these receptors are glycoproteins or lipoproteins. And there is a small molecule that is being recognized by the receptor is called a ligand. For example, a hormone is the ligand for its specific protein receptor. There are two kinds of receptor. One is membrane receptors that is present over the membrane, and the examples are glycoproteins, and there are other receptors called intracellular receptors. Those are present in the cytosol or over the nuclei, and they are recognized or they recognize this DNA binding protein. So this is the most common receptor, that is G protein coupled receptor or GPCR. There are 7 transmembrane receptors, and this is also called as serpentine receptor. This is coupled to heteromeric guanine nucleotide binding protein, or that is G protein. This heteromeric refers to 3 different kinds of protein, that is alpha, beta and gamma. The GPCR are some monomeric G proteins such as RAS, that is HRAS, NRAS and KRAS, that do not couple with GPCR. The GPCR signaling contains many druggable targets. There are over 800 GPCRs in the human genome. About 150 of these GPCRs have no known ligand. Those are called orphan receptors. More than 300 can potentially serve as target for various disorders. 50 to 60% of all current therapeutic agents are targeting GPCR directly or indirectly. So going into the structure of this GPCR, these all GPCR contains 7 transmembrane alpha helical structures. The domains each composed of 20 to 35 amino acid residues. The highly hydrophobic helix are there. These are extracellular, and 3 intracellular loops are there. Amino terminus end is extracellular, whereas carboxy terminal end, that is C terminus end, is intracellular. So this is the N terminal end which is extracellular, whereas this C terminus end, that is intracellular. And there are different classes of this GPCR, like class A, class B, class C, then Frizzle class, then adhesion family of these receptors. So in class A, those are rhodopsin family, ligand anchor between gaps of transmembrane unit, and here the ligands are acetylcholine, histamine, serotonin, then melatonin, prostaglandin, thromboxane, epinephrine or epinephrine, then rhodopsin. Similarly, in class B secretin family, the ligands are glucagon, secretin, CRF, and in class C glutamate and GABA family, the ligands are glutamate, GABA, and taste stimuli, whereas in case of Frizzled class receptor, the ligands are WNT, hedgehog, and taste stimuli for bitter taste, and in adhesion family, the ligands are chondroitin sulfate and unidentified signals. So this G protein or guanylated binding protein refers to any kind of protein that binds GDP or GTP and act as signal transduction. As already told, the G protein consists of three different subunits, that is alpha, beta, and gamma. This alpha unit of this G protein has hydrolysis or this GTPase activity, which hydrolyze GTP to liberate GDP and inorganic phosphate, and this alpha GTP is in active state. When this alpha G protein is in GTP state, it dissociates from this receptor and activates some other secondary messengers. So there are different G alpha proteins. It may be GS or GI or G0 or G12. There are different kinds of classes of this G protein, and they activate or they produce certain secondary messengers like cyclic adenosine monophosphate. After activating adenyl cyclase, or they can produce this inositol triphosphate or diacylglycerol after activating this phospholipase C, or Rho-GEF mediated activation of Rho protein. So numerous members having 16 G alpha subunit, 5 G beta subunit and 14 G gamma subunit. Most if not all have this GTPase activity. The GS subunit are 39 to 52 kilodalton protein divided into 4 families based on their sequence similarity, that is GI 0, GS, GQ11, G12 13. Beta subunit, this beta subunit is of 43 kilodalton and the gamma subunit is around 7.5 to 10 kilodalton. Each G alpha subunit consists of 2 domains, a GTPase domain and a alpha helical and an alpha helical domain. In between these 2 domains is a cleft where the guanine nucleotide binds. Lipid modification of cysteine residue near the N terminus of most G alpha subunit allows for binding to membrane. C terminus of all G alpha subunit appear to be important for interaction with the receptor. Then the G beta gamma is needed for the binding of this G alpha subunit to the receptor, for the formation of high affinity agonist binding and for receptor catalyzed activation of G protein. G beta gamma is also attached to the membrane by a lipid modification of the G gamma subunit, and together the G beta gamma dimer act as a scaffolding protein. Following receptor activation, both G alpha and G beta gamma act as signaling molecules. Activation of a GPCR result in the release of GDP form of G alpha. Until GTP binds, a highly affinity complex is formed between the receptor and G protein. The exchange of GDP to GTP leads to dissociation of G beta gamma dimer from the G alpha subunit, and both can initiate their own intercellular signaling response. A signal GPCR can couple to one or more G alpha proteins. So there are different classes of this G alpha protein as already told. One is GS, GI, GQ, G0 and GT. So whenever there is a ligand and it is recognized by this GPCR, then what happens? The G alpha unit is released and it activates another effector molecule like certain enzymes like adenylate cyclase, and which produce certain secondary messengers like cyclic AMP or cyclic adenosine monophosphate, which in downstream can initiate the cascades of event for certain biological functions. So this adenylate cyclase, what it does, it forms the cyclic AMP from ATP. And this cyclic AMP is a second messenger molecule. So here the receptor recognizes the ligand, and this is a hormone. When it binds, this activation of GPCR occurs, and alpha GTP, it can activate this adenyl cyclase which forms the CAMP. Now, there are certain toxin which brings the modification of this G alpha protein, and as a result there is disturbances in the signal transduction process. So, in case of cholera toxin, it modifies the G alpha by adding this ribose to the arginine of G alpha. So, once there is ribosylation of arginine, this ATPase activity of this G alpha protein is not there. So, when there is no GTPase or ATPase activity, what happens? This G alpha produces only adenyl or activates this adenyl cyclase continuously without any disruption. As a result, large amount of cyclic adenosine monophosphates are produced. Once large amount of cyclic adenosine monophosphates are formed, it forms huge amount of chlorine ions, and when in the intestine the chlorine ion reacts with this water, it forms these carbonates, and as a result there is diarrhea in the cavity of the intestine. So, due to this cholera toxin, the G alpha is permanently on, but in normal cell you will find that this G alpha is sometimes on and off. As a result, the activation and deactivation of this G alpha occurs regularly, and we have certain amount of this CMP. But whenever this G alpha is permanently on, there is dramatically increased CMP concentration. As a result, there is decreased sodium absorption by villous cells, increased chlorine secretion by Krebs cells. As a result, there is dramatic water loss through lumen of gut, and we suffer from diarrhea. Similarly, in case of this pertussis toxin, this alpha inhibitory alpha is ribosylated. Once it is ribosylated, it cannot inhibit this G alpha. As a result, also there is increased activity of adenyl cyclase, and high concentration of CMP is accumulated, and there is allergy of histamine. So, the effect of protein is that G alpha protein is that it activates another protein or enzymes like adenylate cyclase, and in downstream these adenyl cyclase help in the activation of certain systems. So this is how once the ligand is attached, now this is GGTP, this is now it is in GTP stage, now they dissociate and activates this adenyl cyclase. Now there are certain pathway, those are associated with this G protein coupled receptor or GPCR. So once there is a ligand recognized by a receptor, activates this G protein and it activates some enzyme system which produces secondary messenger, and that secondary messenger activates protein kinase, and this protein kinase brings the phosphorylation of enzymes or functional proteins, and whenever there is phosphorylation of enzymes or functional protein, we find some biological effect. Then coming to the single transmembrane alpha helix receptor, there are two kind of single transmembrane alpha helix receptor, that is tyrosine protein kinase receptor or non-tyrosine protein kinase receptor. So in case of tyrosine protein kinase receptor, this can be insulin growth factor receptor or epidermal growth factor receptor, and in non-tyrosine protein kinase receptor there is growth hormone receptor or interferon receptor. So this is the structure of a single alpha helix transmembrane receptor, and it has two domains. One is this N-terminus domain, that is called your ligand binding domain, and in this catalytic domain, that is inside this cytoplasm, that is the catalytic domain that is present in the C-terminus region, and there is only one single alpha helix present inside the membrane. So transmembrane alpha helix protein is there. So among these RTK or this receptor tyrosine kinase, these are like epidermal growth factor receptor, insulin growth factor receptor, platelet derived growth factor receptor or fibroblast growth factor receptors, and this is this insulin growth factor receptor. And in case of a non-receptor tyrosine kinase, or these receptors are interferons or growth factors. We will deal regarding these receptors, how they initiate or how they activate signal transduction process in the coming lecture.